Barron Trump had always been a subject of curiosity and intrigue, yet no one could have foreseen the resilience he would showcase on one exceptional day at his prestigious private school. This was a day destined to redefine not just his character, but also how others perceived him. The day began like any other, with students filing into the grand lecture hall for an important assembly. On this particular day, however, a notable guest speaker was scheduled. Professor Ellen Kramer, a renowned liberal scholar known for her provocative ideas and daring opinions. Her very presence had already stirred excitement among both students and faculty, all eager to hear what she had to say. No one could have anticipated that this session would stray so far off course, venturing into uncharted and unexpected territory. As the hall settled into a hushed anticipation, Professor Kramer strode confidently onto the stage. Her commanding poise, sharp features, and piercing gaze swept over the crowd, ensuring she had everyone's attention. She began by sharing a few anecdotes from her academic journey, weaving thoughtful commentary on modern societal challenges into her words. The audience hung on her every sentence, mesmerized by her eloquence and intellectual depth. But then her tone shifted. A subtle tension began to creep in as she transitioned to a discussion about privilege and societal influence. In today's world, names hold power, Kramer declared, her voice cutting through the stillness. And that power often overshadows true merit. Let me give you an example. Someone sitting right here with us today. She paused briefly, her gaze locking onto Barron Trump. Yes, I'm talking about Barron Trump. The room collectively gasped, a ripple of shock sweeping through the hall. All eyes turned toward Barron, who was seated near the center of the room. Tall and composed, he straightened slightly in his chair, his expression calm and unreadable. Whispers erupted among the students, some in disbelief at the directness of the call-out, others leaning forward in curiosity to see what might happen next. Professor Kramer pressed on, her words now tinged with a biting undertone. Imagine growing up with a golden ticket in your hand. Wealth, power, connections, all gifted to you without effort. But what does that teach you? What have you truly earned? She paused deliberately, letting her rhetorical question linger in the charged silence. The atmosphere grew heavier with every passing moment. Some students fidgeted uneasily, while others exchanged nervous glances. The challenge was clear. How would Barron react? Would he take the bait or falter under the weight of her pointed scrutiny? To many, it felt unjust. A public stage hardly seemed the place for such a confrontation, but Professor Kramer appeared resolute in making her point, no matter the consequences. Among Barron's classmates, emotions were mixed. Many had come to respect his quiet confidence and composed demeanor, though he rarely sought the limelight. On this day, they were about to see a side of him they hadn't before. As the professor's words hung in the air, Barron slowly rose from his seat. The simple act of standing was enough to capture the entire room's attention. He adjusted his blazer with deliberate ease, his steady gaze meeting Professor Kramer's unflinchingly. There was no trace of anger in his expression, no sign of indignation, only a calm resolve that immediately set the tone for what was to follow. Professor Kramer, he began, his voice steady and measured. Measured and calm, Barron began. I appreciate your perspective, Professor, but I believe it's important to clear up a few misconceptions. The room fell completely silent. Even Professor Kramer appeared momentarily taken aback by his poised demeanor. She crossed her arms as if preparing for a rebuttal, while the students leaned in, eager to catch every word. Privilege is real, Barron continued, his voice steady, and I would never deny that my family name has opened doors for me. But privilege alone doesn't define a person, just as assumptions don't define the truth. Every individual has the power to shape their own path, no matter where they begin. His words seemed to carry a weight that resonated deeply with those in the audience. He didn't raise his voice or try to dominate the room. Instead, he spoke with a quiet conviction that even seemed to disarm some of the most skeptical listeners. Kramer's expression hardened, but a flicker of something, perhaps respect, appeared in her eyes. Still, she wasn't ready to back down. "And what path have you shaped, Barron?" she challenged, her tone sharp. "What have you done to earn your place in this world?" The question, though direct and harsh, was met with calmness. Barron's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "I believe actions speak louder than words, Professor," he said. "While I could list accomplishments or projects I've been part of, I prefer to focus on the values that guide me: humility, resilience, and a desire to contribute meaningfully to the world. These are lessons I've learned through my family and my own experiences. Privilege might open doors, but character is built through the choices we make." His response struck a chord. A few students nodded in agreement, while others exchanged glances, clearly impressed by his composure. Even some of the skeptics in the room found themselves rethinking their assumptions. Professor Kramer's stance softened ever so slightly, though her tone remained firm. "It's easy to talk about values, Barron, but the real test lies in action. Words only carry weight if they're supported by deeds." Barron didn't miss a beat. "You're absolutely right, Professor," he said with ease. "That's why I've focused my efforts on initiatives that create real, tangible impact. For instance, last summer, I worked with an organization dedicated to supporting underprivileged youth in urban areas. It was a humbling experience, one that taught me the value of listening and learning from those who face challenges I've never encountered." The tension in the room began to dissolve. The audience seemed to collectively exhale, their focus shifting to admiration. Barron's classmates, many of whom had only observed him from a distance, were seeing him in a completely new light. Here was someone who didn't shy away from scrutiny, but used it as a chance to demonstrate his character. Professor Kramer tilted her head slightly, as if reassessing her initial assumptions. "And yet, you're still standing here, benefiting from advantages most people could never dream of. How do you reconcile that?" Barron paused for a moment, letting his gaze sweep across the room. "By recognizing that privilege comes with responsibility," he said, his tone unwavering. "It's not something to flaunt or deny, but to use for uplifting others. I'm still learning, just like everyone here, but I'm committed to using the opportunities I've been given to make a difference, even in small ways. After all, isn't that what education is about? Equipping ourselves to contribute to a better future." The applause began hesitantly, then grew into a thunderous ovation. Students and teachers alike rose to their feet, their claps echoing through the hall. Professor Kramer stood still for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she gave a small, almost reluctant nod of acknowledgement. Barron returned to his seat, the impact of the exchange leaving an indelible mark on everyone present. The assembly continued, but the focus had permanently shifted. Conversations buzzed with admiration for Barron's eloquence and the unexpected depth he had revealed. Even those who had dismissed him as just a name began to see him as someone with integrity and substance. As the day went on, the encounter became the school's hot topic, sparking debates about privilege, responsibility, and the true measure of a person's worth. Barron's classmates approached him with a newfound sense of respect, eager to discover more about the person who had so gracefully turned a moment of public scrutiny into an inspiring example. Yet, this was just the beginning of the story, merely one chapter in what would evolve into a remarkable tale of resilience, growth, and the quiet strength of leading by example. As the day unfolded, Barron found himself reflecting on the unexpected turn of events during the assembly. The applause and supportive words from his peers were encouraging, yet they brought a sense of responsibility that weighed heavily on his mind. He understood that the exchange with Professor Kramer wouldn't just fade away. It would likely be remembered, even analyzed, in the days and weeks ahead. For someone who had spent much of his life navigating the intricate layers of public perception, this moment felt different. It wasn't about his family's name or what others thought of him. This time, it was about the principles he stood for, and the accountability that came with those values. When the final bell rang, Barron headed to the library, a place he often sought out when he needed clarity. The faint sounds of pages turning and keyboards clicking provided a familiar, calming backdrop. He made his way to his favorite spot by the large window that overlooked the school's perfectly manicured lawn, notebook in hand. Writing had always been his way of untangling complex thoughts, of giving structure to emotions and ideas that could feel overwhelming. As he opened the notebook and began jotting down notes about the day, his focus shifted. He started with the assembly, Professor Kramer's pointed remarks, his response, and the reactions of his classmates. But soon, his thoughts moved beyond what had already happened. He began to think about what he could do next. The professor's challenge, about turning words into action, had resonated deeply. While he was proud of how he'd handled the situation, he knew his response wouldn't hold much weight unless it inspired meaningful change. As the sunlight dimmed and shadows stretched across the library floor, Barron's thoughts drifted to the organization he'd mentioned during the assembly. The summer he'd spent volunteering with a non-profit had left a lasting impression. The group worked to provide educational resources and mentorship to underprivileged youth, and his time there had opened his eyes to the struggles faced by those with fewer opportunities. It had also taught him the importance of truly listening and learning from others. But now, he wondered if there was more he could do, ways to expand on that work and make an even greater impact. The next morning, Barron sought out Mr. Lawrence, his history teacher and the faculty advisor for the school's community service club. Mr. Lawrence had always been a source of encouragement and wisdom, and Barron had great faith in Mr. Lawrence's advice. He found him in the teacher's lounge during lunch, sipping coffee while reviewing a pile of essays. "Mr. Lawrence, do you have a moment?" Barron asked as he approached his desk. "Of course, Barron. What's on your mind?" the teacher replied, setting his coffee mug down. Barron paused briefly to gather his thoughts. "I've been thinking about how I can make a bigger impact, especially after what happened at the assembly yesterday. I've worked with a non-profit before, but I feel like there's a chance to create that kind of change right here at school. Do you think the Community Service Club might take on a new project?" A spark of interest lit up Mr. Lawrence's face. "That's a fantastic idea. What sort of project do you have in mind?" Barron explained, "I was thinking about starting a mentorship program. We could pair students from our school with kids from underserved communities. It would be a way to share resources, offer guidance, and build meaningful connections beyond academics." Mr. Lawrence nodded, clearly impressed. "I like your thinking, Barron. It's ambitious, but it's also incredibly meaningful. The challenge will be working out the logistics and getting support from the administration and your peers. Are you ready to tackle that?" With a determined expression, Barron replied, "Absolutely. I know it's going to be a challenge, but it feels worth pursuing." "Good. Let's schedule a meeting with the club next week to brainstorm ideas," Mr. Lawrence said, offering an encouraging smile. "In the meantime, start outlining your vision for the program. Think about potential partners who might be interested in collaborating with us." Motivated by their conversation, Barron threw himself into research and planning over the following days. He reached out to the non-profit he had volunteered with during the summer, sharing his idea and asking for guidance. The organization's director was thrilled to hear from him, offering resources and advice to help bring the idea to life. Barron also approached his classmates, gathering their feedback and gauging their interest in the project. Their enthusiasm fueled his drive, and he began crafting a detailed proposal. When the Community Service Club met the next week, Barron presented his plan. Standing confidently at the front of the room, he used a projector to display slides he had carefully prepared. The club members listened attentively as he explained his vision, emphasizing how the mentorship program could benefit both the ments and mentors. "This isn't just about helping others," Barron said with conviction. "It's about giving all of us the chance to grow, stepping outside of our comfort zones, learning from people whose experiences differ from ours, and building bridges that connect our school with the wider community." By the time he finished, the room buzzed with excitement. Students eagerly began sharing ideas and volunteering for various tasks. One offered to design promotional materials, another suggested organizing fundraisers, and several expressed interest in becoming mentors themselves. The energy in the room was contagious, and Barron felt a renewed sense of purpose. Over the following weeks, the program began to take shape. The club worked tirelessly to finalize every detail, recruiting participants, coordinating with local schools, and securing spaces for meetings. Although Barron stepped into a leadership role, he made a point of involving everyone in the decision-making process. He knew the success of the program would rely on collaboration and teamwork. As the launch date drew closer, Barron found himself caught up in a whirlwind of responsibilities. There were meetings to attend, emails to send, and countless logistical hurdles to overcome. Despite the late nights and occasional setbacks, he felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. For the first time, this wasn't about responding to criticism or trying to prove himself. It was about creating something meaningful, something that could leave a lasting impact. The mentorship program officially began on a crisp Saturday morning. In the school's auditorium, a lively group of mentors and ments gathered, buzzing with a mix of nervousness and anticipation. The atmosphere was electric. Barron stood confidently at the podium, welcoming everyone and sharing a few heartfelt words about the inspiration behind the initiative. "This program is about so much more than academics," he began, his voice filled with passion. "It's about building relationships, fostering understanding, and creating a true sense of community. Each of us here has something to offer and something to learn, and I'm excited to see where this journey will take us." The crowd burst into applause, and Barron felt a wave of pride wash over him as he looked out at the group. This was just the start, but it already felt like a significant milestone, a testament to what could be achieved when people united around a common goal. The morning unfolded with icebreaker activities, group discussions, and goal-setting exercises. The auditorium buzzed with laughter, thoughtful dialogue, and moments of genuine connection. Barron moved through the crowd, watching the interactions with a sense of fulfillment. He offered encouragement where it was needed, and seeing the bonds beginning to form filled him with a joy he hadn't anticipated. The impact of the program was already visible, and it was even more profound than he had imagined. By the end of the day, the initial nervousness had melted away, replaced by a sense of camaraderie and excitement. Mentors and ments exchanged contact information, making plans for their next meetings and eagerly looking forward to what lay ahead. As the last of the participants trickled out of the auditorium, Barron lingered for a moment. The room, now quiet, still seemed to echo with the energy of the day, a powerful reminder of what they had accomplished together. Walking home that evening, Barron felt an immense sense of gratitude, not just for the success of the mentorship program, but for the entire journey that had brought him to this point. His mind wandered back to the assembly, to Professor Kramer's challenge, and to the insightful conversations with Mr. Lawrence. His classmates, along with the countless hours of effort poured into making his vision a reality, had taught Barron one important truth. Every step was a lesson. It reminded him that real growth comes from facing challenges head-on and transforming them into opportunities. Still, he knew this wasn't the end, just the start. The real work was only beginning. More obstacles would arise, more lessons would be learned, and countless opportunities to make an impact lay ahead. But as he looked forward, Barron felt a quiet yet firm resolve to tackle whatever came his way, just as he had done during the assembly and beyond. In the weeks that followed, the mentorship program started evolving into something much greater than Barron had originally imagined. What began as a simple idea to connect people and encourage understanding had blossomed into a dynamic network of students, educators, and community leaders, all working together with a unified purpose. Barron found himself right at the heart of it all, juggling responsibilities he hadn't foreseen, but wholeheartedly embraced. Meetings became a regular part of his schedule, and his days were packed with coordinating timetables, solving unexpected problems, and ensuring the program ran smoothly. The first major challenge appeared in the form of logistics. While the initial session had gone off without a hitch, it became clear that sustaining the program required far more than enthusiasm alone. There were issues like transportation for ments, supplies for activities, and even the basics, like notebooks and pens, that needed to be addressed. Resourceful as ever, Barron took it upon himself to seek support. He reached out to local businesses and organizations, crafting compelling letters and delivering presentations that laid out the program's mission and its potential impact on the community. His efforts bore fruit when several companies came forward to help, offering everything from funding to in-kind donations. It was enough to ensure that every child, regardless of circumstance, had the tools they needed to participate. But even with these victories, the road was far from smooth. Balancing school, extracurriculars, and the growing demands of the program often left Barron completely drained. There were nights when he stayed up late, meticulously working through spreadsheets or drafting email after email, only to drag himself out of bed early the next morning for classes. Still, even in his most exhausted moments, Barron found a spark of motivation, fueled by the smiles of the ments and their growing excitement for the program. The growing enthusiasm among his peers proved that the mentorship program was evolving into much more than just a project. It was becoming a part of Barron's identity. One afternoon, as Barron stepped into the school library for a planned session, an unexpected scene caught his eye. A group of mentors and ments had gathered around a table, completely immersed in a lively discussion. They were brainstorming ideas for a community initiative, a collaboration that had formed naturally as their relationships deepened. Barron couldn't help but smile as he observed them, their enthusiasm and creativity shining as proof of the program's success. "Hey, Barron," one of the mentors called out, noticing him nearby. "Come check this out. We're thinking about organizing a neighborhood cleanup day. What do you think?" Barron joined them, listening attentively as they laid out their ambitious but practical plan. Their idea wasn't just about the program's participants. It aimed to involve local residents and volunteers as well. He nodded with genuine admiration, impressed by their drive. "This sounds fantastic," he said, his voice brimming with encouragement. "Let's draft a proposal and figure out how to make it happen." The cleanup day quickly became the program's next big milestone. Over the following weeks, the group threw themselves into planning the event, working tirelessly to organize every detail. They coordinated with local officials, secured necessary supplies, and spread the word through social media and community networks. Barron took on the role of liaison, ensuring all the moving pieces fell into place seamlessly. On the day of the event, he arrived early to help set up. His heart swelled with pride as volunteers began to trickle in, armed with gloves, trash bags, and a shared sense of purpose. By the time things got underway, the scene was nothing short of inspiring. The cleanup day turned out to be a resounding success. Volunteers of all ages, young children, teens, and older residents, worked shoulder to shoulder to beautify their neighborhood. Watching mentors and ments collaborate with the community, Barron felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was what the program stood for: connection, growth, and shared purpose. By the end of the day, the streets were spotless, and everyone gathered for a small celebration. The pride on their faces, glowing with accomplishment, said it all. As Barron stood among the crowd, taking it all in, a local journalist approached him, notebook in hand. "Barron, right?" she asked with a warm smile. "I'm covering today's event for the community paper. Mind if I ask you a few questions?" Though caught off guard, Barron was delighted. He agreed, answering her questions candidly about the mentorship program, its origins, and the impact it had made so far. "This program isn't about just one person," he explained with passion. "It's about bringing people together to create something bigger than ourselves. Today's event is just one example of the incredible things we can achieve as a team." When the article came out a few days later, it sparked attention far beyond their local community. Messages and emails began pouring in from educators, parents, and community leaders. Students from other schools began reaching out, eager to learn about the mentorship program and how they could create similar initiatives in their own communities. Barron felt both humbled and exhilarated by the overwhelming response. It became clear to him that the program's reach was extending far beyond what he had ever imagined. With the mentorship program gaining traction, Barron started thinking about its future. How could it sustain itself in the long run? He knew it couldn't rely on him forever. For it to truly thrive, others needed to step into leadership roles. Barron began identifying potential successors among the mentors, those who had consistently shown exceptional dedication and leadership skills. One name stood out: Sarah, a senior who had played a pivotal role in organizing the cleanup day. Her natural ability to inspire others was undeniable. After a club meeting one afternoon, Barron approached her. "Sarah, can we talk for a minute?" he asked. "Of course," she replied, her expression curious. Barron hesitated for a moment before starting. "I've been thinking about the program's future," he said. "Since I'll be graduating soon, I want to make sure it keeps growing. And I think you'd be a fantastic choice to step into a leadership role." Sarah's eyes widened. "Me? Are you sure?" she asked, a mix of surprise and excitement in her voice. "Absolutely," Barron said with a warm, reassuring smile. "You've already proven how capable and passionate you are. I'll be here to help as we transition, but I truly believe you're the right person to take the lead." Over the next few months, Barron worked closely with Sarah and other key members of the program to ensure everything transitioned smoothly. He shared his insights: how to handle logistics, foster collaboration, and keep the program thriving. At the same time, he encouraged them to bring their unique perspectives and ideas to the table. By the time graduation was just around the corner, Barron felt confident that the program was in capable hands. The mentorship program's success didn't go unnoticed by the school administration. During the end-of-year assembly, the principal took a moment to acknowledge its impact. "This program," she began, her voice filled with pride, "is a shining example of what our students can achieve when they combine vision, determination, and compassion. And none of it would have been possible without the leadership and dedication of Barron Trump." Thunderous applause erupted, and Barron stood to acknowledge the recognition, his heart filled with both pride and humility. While his name had become closely tied to the program, he knew that its success was thanks to the efforts of so many students, mentors, teachers, and community members, coming together for a shared purpose. After the assembly, Barron found himself surrounded by classmates, teachers, and even younger students began approaching Barron, seeing him as a role model. They asked questions, shared their dreams, and expressed gratitude for the program's impact. Among them was a young boy named Liam, one of the Ments who had participated in the mentorship initiative. "Barron, I just wanted to say thank you," Liam said, his voice sincere. This program has helped me so much. My mentor taught me how to study better, but more than that, he showed me I could do things I didn't think I could. I want to be like that for someone else someday." Barron crouched down so he was at eye level with Liam, his heart swelling at the boy's words. "You already have what it takes to make a difference, Liam," he said with a warm smile. "Just keep believing in yourself and don't be afraid to dream big. You've got such a bright future ahead of you." As Liam walked away, Barron felt a profound sense of fulfillment. What had started as a challenge turned into something much greater. The mentorship program had become a shining example of the power of community, the courage to take initiative, and the belief that even the smallest actions could spark meaningful change. With his time at school drawing to a close, Barron often reflected on the incredible journey that had led him here. The program had grown far beyond what he'd ever imagined. It was no longer just a project or an idea. It had transformed into a thriving community of people working together to make a difference. The realization brought both pride and a tinge of sadness. While the transition of leadership to Sarah and the other mentors had gone smoothly, it still felt bittersweet knowing his role in the program was nearing its end. Barron spent hours reviewing plans for the next phase, offering advice when asked, but stepping back enough to let the new leaders take full ownership. He wanted them to feel empowered, to know they were capable of carrying the program forward. Watching them lead with confidence and creativity reassured him that the program was in good hands. One afternoon, Barron noticed a group of students gathered near the community bulletin board. Curious, he walked over to see what had captured their attention. Pinned to the board was a colorful flyer for an upcoming mentorship celebration event. It was an idea spearheaded by Sarah and her team to honor everyone who had contributed to the program's success. The flyer announced that the event would feature speeches, performances, and a showcase of projects that ments and mentors had worked on together. Barron smiled to himself, his chest filling with pride. The program had truly taken on a life of its own. When the day of the celebration arrived, the school auditorium buzzed with excitement. Students, teachers, parents, and community members filled the seats, their anticipation clear in the lively chatter. The stage was adorned with vibrant banners and photos from mentorship activities, a visual reminder of the program's impact. Barron took his seat in the audience, choosing to participate as a spectator rather than the center of attention. He had purposely declined a speaking role, insisting that the focus should be on the ments and mentors who had worked tirelessly to make the program a success. The event began with heartfelt speeches from several ments. One by one, they shared how the program had transformed their lives, boosting their confidence, improving their academics, and offering guidance they'd never had before. Their words were met with rounds of applause and even a few tears from those listening. Barron sat quietly, his heart tight with emotion as he realized how deeply the program had touched the lives of those it was meant to serve. Then Sarah took the stage. Her presence was commanding yet approachable, her voice filled with passion. Even younger students, who admired him as a role model, began to approach Barron. They asked questions, shared their dreams, and expressed gratitude for all his efforts. Among them was a young boy named Liam, one of the ments who had taken part in the program. "Barron, I just wanted to thank you," Liam said, his voice sincere. "This program has helped me so much. My mentor taught me better ways to study, but he also showed me that I can accomplish things I never thought possible. I hope to be like that for someone else someday." Barron bent down to meet Liam's gaze, his heart swelling with emotion at the boy's words. "You already have what it takes to make a difference, Liam," he said. "Keep believing in yourself, and don't be afraid to dream big. You've got a bright future ahead of you." As Liam walked away, Barron felt a deep sense of fulfillment. What had started as a response to a challenge had turned into so much more. The program had become a symbol of community power, the importance of taking initiative, and the belief that even small actions can lead to meaningful change. While Barron's journey with the program was nearing a turning point, he knew that its story was far from over. As Barron Trump entered the final weeks of his time at the school, he found himself reflecting on how far the program had come. When it all started, he could never have imagined the impact it would have. The mentorship initiative was no longer just an idea or a project. It had transformed into a vibrant, living community, working together to create real change. This realization filled him with a profound sense of accomplishment, but it also came with a bittersweet awareness that his direct role in the program was coming to an end. Though the leadership transition to Sarah and the other mentors had been seamless, Barron still felt compelled to make sure every detail was taken care of. He spent countless hours reviewing plans for the next steps, offering advice when needed, but stepping back enough to let the new leaders take ownership. He wanted them to feel empowered, confident that they were fully capable of continuing the program without him. Watching them lead with creativity and confidence reassured him that the program's future was in good hands. One afternoon, as Barron was walking through the school courtyard, he noticed a group of students gathered around the community bulletin board. Curious, he approached to see what had caught their attention. There, pinned to the board, was a flyer for an upcoming mentorship celebration event, an idea initiated by Sarah and her team to recognize the contributions of everyone involved in the program. The event would include speeches, performances, and a showcase of projects that ments and mentors had worked on together. Barron smiled to himself, his heart swelling with pride. The program had truly taken on a life of its own. As the day of the celebration arrived, the school auditorium buzzed with excitement. Students, teachers, parents, and community members filled the seats, their anticipation palpable. The stage was decorated with colorful banners and photos from mentorship activities, proof of the program's lasting impact. Barron took a seat in the audience, eager to experience the event from a participant's perspective, not as the focal point. He had intentionally turned down a speaking role, believing the spotlight should be on the ments and mentors who had worked tirelessly to make the program a success. The event began with heartfelt speeches from several ments. One by one, they spoke about how the program had changed their lives, boosting their confidence, improving their academic performance, and providing invaluable guidance from their mentors. Each story was met with applause and even a few tears from the audience. Barron sat, listening intently, his chest tightening with emotion. He realized just how deeply the program had impacted those it was designed to serve. Next, Sarah took the stage. Her presence was commanding yet approachable as she spoke with great passion. With sincerity, Sarah thanked everyone who had played a part in the program's success, sharing her vision for its future. "This program is about so much more than just mentorship," she said. "It's about creating a community where every individual feels valued and supported. It's about acknowledging that we all have something to give and something to learn. And, most importantly, it's about creating a ripple effect of kindness and opportunity that reaches far beyond these walls." The audience erupted into applause, and Barron couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Sarah had embraced her leadership role with grace and determination, perfectly embodying the values the program aimed to instill. Her words were a reminder that the program's impact would continue to expand, driven by the collective efforts of all involved. As the celebration carried on, Barron was approached by a steady flow of people. Teachers and parents expressed their thanks for his leadership and vision, while students shared their admiration and gratitude. Even Professor Kramer, who had attended the event out of curiosity, sought him out during the intermission. Her demeanor was noticeably different from their first encounter, warm and sincere. "Barron," she said, extending her hand, "I owe you an apology. When I challenged you during that assembly, I underestimated you. What you've achieved here is truly remarkable. You've shown that privilege, when used responsibly, can be a powerful force for good. I hope you realize just how much of a difference you've made." Barron shook her hand, his expression humble. "Thank you, Professor Kramer. Your challenge pushed me to think bigger and take action, and I'm grateful for that." Her eyes softened, and she nodded before stepping away, leaving Barron to reflect on the moment. It felt like a fitting conclusion to the journey that had begun with that pivotal assembly, a reminder of how far he had come and how much he had grown. The final segment of the evening was a surprise, planned by the Ments. They had put together a short video that documented their experiences in the program, filled with candid interviews, photos, and footage from mentorship sessions. As the video played, laughter and cheers filled the auditorium. The audience was moved by the genuine connections and positive energy on display. When the video ended, the Ments presented Barron with a framed collage of handwritten notes and drawings, each expressing their appreciation and gratitude. Overwhelmed, Barron stood to address the crowd. Though he had intended to stay in the background, the moment felt right for a few words. Taking the microphone, he looked out at the faces of everyone who had been a part of this journey. "I'm truly humbled by all of this," he began, his voice steady despite the emotions welling up inside him. "But tonight isn't about me. It's about all of you. The mentors, the Ments, the teachers, the parents, and everyone who believed in this program and gave it their all. This wouldn't have been possible without each one of you. You've shown me what it truly means to create something that lasts, something that matters. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it." The applause that followed was deafening, a heartfelt recognition of the impact Barron had made. As he stepped off the stage, a sense of closure filled him. The mentorship program had become everything he had envisioned, and more. It was now a legacy that would continue to inspire and empower others, long after he had moved on. In the days that followed, Barron began preparing for the next chapter of his life. Graduation was just around the corner, bringing with it the promise of new opportunities and challenges. He knew the skills and lessons gained from the mentorship program would remain with him, guiding him toward his goals and dreams. But more importantly, he understood that true leadership wasn't about titles or accolades. It was about lifting others up and creating spaces where everyone could thrive. As Barron packed up his belongings on the last day of school, he took one final walk through the campus. The hallways and classrooms were filled with memories, each one a reminder of the journey that had shaped him into who he had become. When he reached the bulletin board where the flyer for the mentorship celebration had once hung, he noticed a new poster in its place. It was an announcement for the next round of mentorship activities, complete with a call for new mentors and Ments. The sight brought a smile to his face. The program was thriving, and its story was far from over. Stepping outside, Barron felt the sun's warmth on his face and the steady hum of possibility in the air. The world was waiting, full of challenges and opportunities yet to be discovered. And as he walked toward the future, he carried with him the quiet confidence of someone who had learned what it meant to make a difference, not through grand gestures or sweeping declarations, but through consistent effort, genuine care, and an unwavering belief in the power of community.